So it's just after 8 a.m. GMT, and usually by this point, um, there would be some clear indication of what's happening, either a declaration of presidential victory or a very clear trajectory. What we have is actually the worst situation, which is deep uncertainty. Um, the speech that President Trump's just made is a disgrace. Um, and if you think there's a partisan issue going on here, consider that the conservative Republican Rick Santorum um, said how shocked he was at what Trump's come out with in his reflection on this. So Trump basically, it's sort of passive enough. He was obviously tired, understandably so, but he said that he just come out and say he thinks he's won, right? Or he has won. Now, I don't blame a candidate for expressing confidence when it's very close, and it is painfully close. But for Trump to basically delegitimize the American democratic process by claiming without evidence that there is fraud, and he hasn't produced any evidence of this, is reckless and potentially dangerous because there are millions of people who believe every single syllable that Trump comes out with. So those hardcore Trump supporters are going to be convinced that the Democrats are corrupt and they're trying to steal the election. There's no evidence of this issue about an election being settled on the night, though. Um, there hasn't been an occasion in modern American history when votes have been delegitimized just because they've been counted after midnight. The United States is a huge country, 330 million people. So what Trump is basically doing here, because a lot of states are still too close to call, it's either a case that he thinks he's going to lose, or I don't know what. But there is a contrast here. To those who might say, "Oh, well, Biden would do the same thing if Trump was narrowly in the lead." Biden's speech was clear; he expressed confidence, but it also gave an underlying theme of not being complacent. He said he thought we're winning, but he never said anything about Supreme Court action if if it looked like Trump's side was winning. And that shows the contrast between these two men. Um, this is going to be a repeat of 2000, I think. Unfortunately, it's probably going to rumble on for days, which is really not good. As Dana Bash pointed out on CNN, the United States sends election observers around the world to monitor free and fair elections. The President of the United States has just basically delegitimized the image or the perception of American democracy. Now, how is the likes of China and Russia and other adversaries going to portray that? They're going to say, oh, look, this proves the West is corrupt, America's corrupt, so they can't lecture us. So it's very dangerous in more ways than one. Um, just to be clear, it is very close, so I wouldn't have blamed Trump for being confident or saying even that he thought he was winning. But threatening Supreme Court action, when the Supreme Court at the moment is heavily dominated by conservatives, Republicans, it is, well, conservatives, is just basically, it's a disgrace. It's a disgrace. Um, and it's shocking but not surprising. What Trump should have done is express confidence, but said, but there's still votes to come. The irony of this is that many of those votes might go to him anyway. So he's actually delegitimizing votes that could be supporting him anyway. Um, but to say they're not legitimate just because they're after midnight is absurd. Um, and like I say, even Rick Santorum acknowledged that election workers are tired. It's when you're tired, you make mistakes. So they start again next morning when they're fresh. Um, but unfortunately, this has big echoes of 2000. Um, I must admit, it is a lot closer than I thought it would be. I never thought Biden would get a landslide, but I thought he'd have a comfortable lead. I must admit, I did. When Florida went to Trump tonight, kind of thought, okay, well, there's going to be trouble there. Um, a Trump supporting contact of mine said there's a lot of states that have Trump 80, 90% leading, and yet they haven't declared. Well, Arizona hasn't formally declared, and it has Biden in the lead. And every indication is that Biden is still in the lead, although it's very close. For example, Al Jazeera has 225 to 213. CNN has 220 to 213. This is electoral college votes. So they're all very close, uncomfortably close. I will check out actually what the 2000 electoral college votes were. But that's the situation. I don't think we're going to have a confirmation today. But for Trump to threaten Supreme Court action when he is trailing, um, before states have even declared, I sense that as just reckless, but much in keeping with this narcissist of a president.